So the other day I got an offer. I listed my MR2 Spider for sale, and one of the first offers I got was a guy wanting to trade a 1995 C4 Corvette with $5,000 on top. Now that sounds interesting, but I was thinking the Corvette was going to be, a little shabby, a little broken down, because $5,000 plus a C4 Corvette for my MR2 Spider, that seems like a pretty good deal. When he sent the pics, it was immaculate. It only had 100,000 miles, it was bright red, no tears on the seats, 6-speed manual transmission, and it looked like a 100,000 mile car. That was garage capped, of course. And I've always known this, but it just made me realize a little bit more how cheap these cars are, and how much of a bang for a buck performance car this can be. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, from the years, the trims, the common problems, the rare parts, and the 5 rarest colors you can get for a C4 Corvette, so you can go out there and buy one for yourself before they do become expensive. There is one pretty big flaw with this car, but if you get it taken care of, it should last you for 100,000 miles before you gotta do it again. Most of you know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, stick around and we'll get to it. So the first year of production for the C4 was 1984. And this was the only year you could get the crossfire injection motor. Now, although this is the only year you could get it, it's not necessarily sought after. And one of the reasons is because it only made 205 horsepower with 290 pound-feet of torque. Most of these were sold as automatics, but you could also get the Doug Nash 4+3 manual transmission. Now 4 plus 3 equals 7, but in this case, most people use it as just a 5-speed transmission, unless you want to be doing some serious math. Also this year, more than half of the C4s sold had the Z51 package, and that's good for you if you're buying one, because this came with heavy-duty front and rear springs, shock absorbers, stabilizer bars, and bushings, a faster steering ratio, an engine oil cooler, and an extra radiator fan. For 1985, they caught on quick and took out that L83 Crossfire motor and swapped it out with the L98 engine with Bosch tuned port fuel injection. This motor made 230 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. And another change came to the Z51 package. A lot of owners of the 1984 Z51 package are complaining about the stiff ride. So what Chevy decided to do was they reduced the spring rates by 25%, and the 1985 also received Bilstein gas-charged shock absorbers and thicker stabilizer bars. For 1986, this was the first year you could buy the C4 Corvette in a convertible. Some of the other changes they did was they added a new system called VATS, which was an anti-theft system. The L98 also got a bump in horsepower to 235, and now C4 Corvettes included ABS and a center-mounted brake light as standard features. And for 1987, they did another bump to the L98, and now it was sitting right at 240 horsepower. They also introduced a new package this year called the Z52, which included a radiator boost fan, Bilstein shock absorbers, an engine oil cooler, a heavy-duty radiator, 16 by 9.5 inch wheels, a faster 13:1 steering ratio, and larger front stabilizer bars again. In 1988, they started offering more interior options, and there was also improvements to the braking system. Now they had dual piston front brakes, and now the parking brake was a part of the rear brake system instead of having a separate parking drum brake. Also, they did a necessary change and made the AC system more efficient. And something that wasn't really exciting is they also improved the hood rod supports. I'm happy they did it, but it's not as exciting as a better AC system. For 1989, this is the start of the years that people want. They took out the Doug Nash 4+3 and they changed it up and added a real 6-speed manual transmission. They also made away with the 16 by 8.5 wheels and changed them out for the new 17 by 9.5 inch wheels. They also discontinued the Z52 package, and also this year they started making the ZR1 package. I'll talk about that later, but those are the C4s that are selling for the most money. For 1991, they came out with a facelift C4, and this included a smoother and slimmer front bumper with wraparound fog lights. They also made wider body side moldings that were now painted to match the body color of the car, and they changed the air ducts on the front fenders. This was also the year they came out with the turbine style wheels, and they had a new trim called the Z07. This was pretty much the Z51 package and the FX3 adjustable ride option. It's just like on newer performance cars where you can change the stiffness of the springs. 1992 was the first year that you could get the LT1 in the C4 Corvette. This now made 300 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. This year they also added the acceleration slip regulation, which pretty much just helped the drive wheels from spinning on slippery surfaces. They also changed a number of things in the interior, like adding more insulation so the car is quieter in the inside, provides the cluster to be more readable, but also not cool because it's not digital anymore. And if you got the ZR1s, now it came with a cool badge. Now if you get a 93 model, all of these will come with 40th embroidered in the headrest. Now not all of these 1993 40th embroidered cars are the 40th anniversary edition of the Corvette, but since it came out in 1993, the 40th year, all of them have it. For 1994, there was no gain in power to the LT1, but they did introduce sequential fuel injection that improved the idle of the car. This year they also made the automatics a little bit better, but who cares about that? And for the last 2 years of 1995 and 1996, these are the years that you would want to buy if you want a reliable C4. Some of these changes were that the connecting rods got stronger, the engine fans were more quiet, and the fuel injection system was improved to utilize alcohol blend fuels. The 6-speed manual transmission was also upgraded, and the heavy-duty ZR1 brakes were made standard on all models. They also introduced a better Bosch ABS system. And last but not least, this year they got less stiff decarbon gas charged shocks. And unfortunately also in 1995, this was the last year you could get the ZR1 package. For 1996, instead of the ZR1 package, they came out with the Grand Sport, which came in a nice Admiral blue paint job and featured a single white stripe going down the body with 2 red stripes on the driver's side fender. This was to pay homage to the classic Corvette Grand Sport racer in the 1960s. Now, if you either got the Grand Sport, the Collector's Edition, or just the manual transmission, you got the new LT4 engine. This came with 330 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. And unfortunately, if you got the automatic, you're still stuck with the LT1. Now that we got all the years out of the way, let's go into the special trims they offered during the C4's run. So the first special edition that they ever made was in 1986, and this was a Malcolm Connor edition. Malcolm Connor was a dealer that sold more Corvettes than any other dealer in the USA. I mean, you would walk into his dealership wanting a minivan for your 4 kids, and you walk out with the C4 Corvette. That's how good he was. And because he contributed to such a large part of the sales, when he died in the 80s, they made this edition named after him. Other than the paint scheme with the beige on top and the black on the bottom and a plaque, there wasn't too much special about it. There was no performance upgrades, but it's pretty sick. Also this year, if you're looking for a 1986 convertible, all of them will be the Pace Car Edition. The way to make sure is if you look on the inside, there will be a plaque, and on the outside, if they kept the decal, there will be an official Pace Car decal on the outside. Now that's kind of iffy because a lot of people took these off, but if it does still have the decal, it is pretty cool. The next one is actually really special, and this is the 1987 to 1991 Callaway Edition. Now I left 2 words out at the end of the name of this car, and that's twin turbo. You heard that right. A twin turbo C4 Corvette you could buy from the factory at your dealership. Now this isn't cheap. You're not going to find one of these for maybe $2,000, $5,000 more dollars than just the regular C4. This was a $20,000 upgrade back in the day. And with the twin turbos installed, it now made 345 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. All of these were equipped with a manual transmission, and they were not certified for sale in California. Next special edition that's not so special is the 1988 35th Anniversary Edition. Pretty much these things were all white, interior, outside, except for the roof, and that's about it. Now because the last one was so lame, the next one is actually pretty sweet, and this is the 1990 to 1995 ZR1. This came with the LT5 motor, and in 1992 had 375 horsepower and 375 pound-feet of torque. The next year in 1993, it got up to 405 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque. This thing is a monster, but also double the price of the Corvette. This was a $30,000 option. Here's another lame one. Just like the 35th Anniversary Edition, 5 years after that, 40 years came, and they also made a special edition for that, the 40th year anniversary edition, and it came with a couple 40 badges and was finished in the ruby red color. Now if you want something a little bit cooler than the 40th anniversary edition, you would get the 1995 Indy 500 Pace Car replica. These had that same type of almost maroonish color on top, but at the bottom had white and had really cool decals on the front and sides. They also came with Indy 500 embroidered in the headrest, and you also had black and purple seats. Unfortunately, all of these came in an automatic and convertible only, but the graphics make up for it and make it a super sick special edition. For the last year of production, 1996, we had 2 special editions, the Grand Sport, like I talked about earlier, and also the Collector's Edition. This also came with the LT4 like the Grand Sport, but instead of the blue, had a silver paint job. Now let's hop into the common problems on the C4 you might be looking at. One of the most common problems that's not really that bad is that the pop-up headlights use plastic gears to make them go up and down, and over time these get brittle and get stripped, and this was pretty much throughout all of GM's pop-up headlight cars from this era. There's an easy way to fix that, and that's just by buying metal gears and replacing them. Probably won't ever have to worry about it again. Now because this is a GM car from the 90s or the 80s, there's going to be a lot of electronic bits that probably just don't work. And you're just gonna have to deal with that because they might have been nice and ahead of their time back in the day, but now they're just old outdated paperweights. Another one is gonna be the wobbly steering wheel. Because of the C4 being so low and it being hard to get in and out of, a lot of people use the steering wheel as a leverage point, and if they do this enough, the steering wheel will just become sloppy. You wouldn't think this would be an expensive thing to fix, but it is. So if the C4 you're looking at has a wobbly steering wheel, make sure to take the price down at least $600. Now at the beginning of the video, I said there's one problem that plagues these cars, and a lot of you guys know what it is, but here it is again. It's OptiSpark. Because the water pump is right on top of the distributor on the LT1 cars, if the water pump starts leaking, it will leak right on the distributor and pretty much break the distributor. So you need to not only replace the distributor, but you also need to replace the water pump so your brand new distributor doesn't get water on it again. And it's a pain in the butt to get to, so just do it all at once, and hopefully you won't have to worry about it for another 100,000 miles. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how do I know if the OptiSpark went bad? One of the main symptoms of the OptiSpark going bad is just the car not starting. But pretty much any problem that's coming from the engine bay might be related to the OptiSpark going bad. Now the later model years, 1995 and 1996, had a vented OptiSpark, so if water did get in, it had a way to get out, but if you're buying one before 1995, you're not as lucky. Another issue is that digital dashes have a tendency to go bad. Their lights just stop working, and without lights on a digital dash, you can't see anything. Now there is a person that refurbishes them, but it is quite expensive. So if the digital dash you're looking at does not work, maybe take out $500 to $1,000 from the asking price. The LT1 engines are also more prone to engine oil leaks than normal cars, and sometimes it can have a rough idle at startup if it's been sitting for a while. The way to fix this is either get some fuel injection cleaner or just replace the fuel injectors altogether. It's also quite common on these cars that road debris gets sucked up into the front of the radiator, causing the car to overheat. So just make sure the car you're looking at does not have any junk in front of the radiator. Also, the weather stripping on these cars dries out faster than normal. I told you guys about this in a lot of my other videos, but Shin-Etsu does a real good job of making those seals last longer. So apply some Shin-Etsu to it and you should be good to go if they're not too far gone. And lastly, pretty much all of these transmissions had their own problems. So if there's any problem with the transmission, don't take it lightly. Assume it needs to be rebuilt and use that to bargain down the price. Now for rare parts, pretty much any of those special editions that I mentioned earlier in the video are rare, but sometimes these things get junked, and a lot of people take the parts off these nice cars and put them on their own cars, and now it's for sale. So for instance, if you see the 35th anniversary white wheels, that might add value. Also, if you see just a regular C4 Corvette with the cowboy body kit, those are things that would add value, even though that C4 you're looking at isn't the actual edition. Now let's hop into some of the 5 rarest colors that you can get on the C4 Corvette you're looking at. First one is called Arctic Pearl. Now they only made 27 of these, and I think only 5 of them were sold to the public. So yeah, your chances of getting this color are pretty slim. But from what I can see from Google Images, it looks like a normal white, so you're probably not missing out on too much there. Next on the list is called a Dark Orange Metallic. They made 87 of these. And again, all I can find is pictures, unfortunately no videos. But it is a nice color. It looks like the University of Texas Longhorn color. It's pretty sweet, but not something I necessarily get. For number 3 on this list, we've got another type of orange color, and that is called Copper Metallic. They only made 120 of these. This was planned to be a big color for the 1994 C4 model year, but because of quality control issues and because of the paint not looking the same on each panel, they stopped producing it after the 6th day of production. I like this a lot more than the Dark Orange Metallic because it's something you don't really see too often, and it just has this really cool shine about it. I think this would be the color that I would get if I were to get a C4 Corvette. For the 4th color on this list, we've got white and silver two-tone. And this just kind of works for the Corvette. I mean, if you had copper metallic in a two-tone, maybe with white, that would look so cool as like a C4 Corvette creamsicle. But they didn't do it, and instead they did white and silver. They made 195 of these. I'm not sure if you had to pay extra to get 2 colors on the car, but I think it would be worth it if it was like $1,000 more because of how good it looks. And for the 5th car on this list, it's not too different from the 4th. It's gray and black two-tone. They made 316 of these. And yeah, if you find one, it's pretty rare and it's pretty sweet. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe down below if you're new. If you have any other suggestions on videos I should do, leave it down in the comments. And join the Discord. We like to play video games and talk about cars. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.